by the Palestinian poet and freedom fighter Ghassan Kanafani. I wish children didn't die. I wish they would be temporarily elevated to the skies until the war ends, then that they would return home safe. And when their parents asked them, "Where were you?" they would say, "We were playing in the clouds." Solidarity, friends, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Fran, and to our numerous trade unions who have always stood in solidarity with Palestine. In our thousands, in our millions. 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 Our next speaker is the Vice President of Stop the War, one of the co-organisers of today's protest. So please give a warm welcome to Andrew Murray.
Brothers and sisters, as we mark Nakba Day, our first obligation today must be to send our unconditional solidarity to the great Palestinian people. So we say, whether you are sheltering in Rafah under the shadow of Israeli bombardment, whether you are queuing for food for your starving family, whether you are picking through the rubble of your home, whether you are fighting off fascist settlers on the West Bank, or whether you are burying your children murdered, we see you, we hear you, we are with you in solidarity today, tomorrow, and until Palestine is free. Now, Rishi Sunak has betrayed international law, human decency, and most of the British people by his support for genocide. He's not just allowed it, he's enabled it, and he's armed it. That's why we demand of our government today, stop the arms sales to Israel, restore funding to UNRWA, and recognize a Palestinian state now. Yes, thank you. And as for Rishi Sunak's mini-me, Keir Starmer, we have seen you too. 2 weeks ago in the local elections, tens of thousands of people have made it clear that they will never support a party that endorses the genocide of the Palestinians. And that is just a down payment. No ceasefire, no vote. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Now, brothers and sisters, they want to break this movement of ours. They smear us and they devise new ways to try and stop us marching. Lord Wolney, who is funded by Israeli arms industry interests, he is telling the government every week, stop the marches, make them pay for the privilege of marching, and now he wants to ban organizations that he doesn't like that cut across his interests. We have to say to Baron Walnut and Suella Braverman, you ain't got the juice to stop this movement. We will carry on marching and demonstrating for a ceasefire now, to free Palestine, to stop the imperialist wars, and we fight to defeat Sunak and Starmer, because only when we do that can we look the Palestinian people in the eye and say, brothers and sisters, we have done our duty.
Free, 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 free,
as you all know, the last couple of weeks have seen an absolute explosion in solidarity from one group in particular. Students across the country. Students at more than 20 universities around Britain, Scotland, and Ireland have set up encampments in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We are really honored and pleased to have our next speaker come and talk to us today. She's a student who's been involved in organizing the encampment at SOAS, calling for divestment and an end to all complicity in the ongoing genocide from UK universities. Please give a very warm welcome to Haya Adam from SOAS. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! I stand here today on behalf of my friends and my comrades back at SOAS and on behalf of our incredible encampment. It has been 76 years since the Nakba, 76 years since the beginning of the brutal Zionist occupation, where 750,000 Palestinians were kicked out of Palestine, tortured, massacred by Zionist forces. Shame! What we are seeing today in Gaza and Palestine is a continuation of the Nakba. We have seen over 35,000 martyrs. We have seen thousands more under the rubble, and we have seen tens of thousands injured with permanent injuries for life. Shame! The Zionist entity is trying to continue to erase Palestinians, to expel them off their homeland, but we are here to say that Palestinians will remain rightfully on their homeland and return in their millions. We are reminded that our institutions try to erase Palestinian history by trying to erase the memory of the Nakba within our curriculums, and British institutions are complicit. They do not want to teach on the Nakba because it exposes the truth about the true creation of the colonial entity and how Britain signed off land that was never theirs to give in the first place. As members of the student movement, we recognize the power and potential of our collective voice. We understand that we are not merely spectators of history, but active participants capable of driving change and globalizing the student revolution. We are still standing strong with our encampment and SOAS, and we are proud of our people in LSE, in KCL, in UCL, in Queen Mary. We will not stand for Western institutions to illegitimately redefine the struggles of the occupied people. It is our duty to decolonize our curriculums because, as we always say, decolonization is not a metaphor. Today, we honor those who came before us and reaffirm our commitment to a path of liberation. We carry with us the memories and dreams of those who came before us, and we walk forward with hope and determination. The struggle is not in vain. Our perseverance will lead us to the dawn of freedom by any means necessary. So as loud as you can, I want all of London to hear you. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. Free, free. Free, free. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Once again, give it up for Haya and all of Our next speaker is a human rights activist and leading young Palestinian voice, and she is also the independent parliamentary candidate for the people of Ilford North. So please give a very warm welcome to Leanne Mohammed.
In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. Sisters and brothers, our chants are only growing louder, and what is breaking them is how unbreakable we have been, and we will not stop. We will not be silenced. We will keep our voices loud and clear. We will keep up the pressure to bring an end to this genocide, and we will not stop until Palestine is free. 76 years ago, our Nakba, our catastrophe began, and my grandparents were forcibly expelled from Palestine and became refugees. This did not start on October the 7th. This is just the latest chapter in our ongoing Nakba, manifesting now in the most horrific and brutal ways in Gaza. Today, Gaza is a nightmare for all of us. It represents all that is distasteful about the so-called rules-based order. It is a graveyard, not just for children, but a graveyard of an order, a liberal world order that has run its course. Gaza is the culmination of the excesses of this order. In fact, it is the logical outcome. This American-led order was created on the embers of colonialism, exploitation, and slavery. And this cruel, inhumane, genocidal outcome is no more than the last death pains of an order lost in its own hubris. But if Gaza represents a nightmare, it also represents hope. Gaza is an educator. It has taught us about life, about struggle, about faith, about love, and about loss. Gaza has brought us all together, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and those with no faith, all united in our disgust at what the world has become. But we are freeing ourselves from a system that has polluted our air, our politics, our minds, and our souls. We are freeing ourselves. This is a movement that should not be allowed to die. This is a movement that should blossom into a rage to build a better world, free from the imperial designs of the US and her proxies in Europe. And this is where I want to send a strong message to one man, Keir Starmer. Starmer, we know you and the Labour Party have sought to echo every position of your US imperial overlords. When they resisted a ceasefire because Israel had not killed enough, you obeyed. When they vilified the International Court of Justice, you consented. When they sanctioned the UNRWA, you believed willfully the lies, and your hands are as stained as Biden. You could have acted as an opposition, but instead your hunger for power and a return to what you call Blairism on steroids has turned a human rights lawyer into an apologist for war crimes. Keir Starmer, we will not let this go. Friends, if you want to prevent the next 5 years of UK and US imperialism, do not vote Labour. The greater their majority, the greater flexibility they will have to cause wars abroad and curtail our civil liberties at home. This is why my community selected me to stand in the upcoming elections against our local MP, Wes Streeting, as an independent in Ilford North. We will be the generation to dismantle this system of oppression. Let's not be silent to a system that wants to buy our complicity. Let's not be a generation that walked by whilst people suffered. Let's look beyond our immediate comforts and think about what we owe the people around us, and let Gaza be our teacher. Gaza is a seed, and its martyrs have fertilized our minds and hearts. Let the passion for justice that burns within us all never be extinguished. So let's all hold it, and we will do it. And together, we will see a free Palestine within our lifetimes. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Thank you.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Our next speaker is here today on behalf of Namod, a movement of Jewish people in the UK seeking to end their community's support for apartheid and occupation. Please give a very warm welcome to Emily Stevenson from Namod.
Okay, when I say this next, so many of you have heard me do this before. When I say the next thing, respond as you would in Arabic. Shalom Aleichem, everyone. It's so nice when we do that. I love it so much. Recently, I saw a message that was put up by a Zionist that I know that said to all anti-Zionist Jewish people, your ancestors would be weeping bitter tears in heaven. Yeah, boo 'em. So I just want to use my short time today to talk about my ancestors and your ancestors and the ancestors of everyone in the Jewish bloc who marched today and has been marching for the last 14 marches. I know my ancestors are not ashamed of my standing up for the rights of the Palestinian people who have been so downtrodden and so oppressed for the last 76 years. And I know this, because when I stand on these stages, when I speak at events, when I write in the media, it is with the voices of my ancestors that I am speaking. It is with the voices of my ancestors who were driven from their homes in Spain in 1492 and became refugees that I am speaking. People who faced unimaginable violence, who were forced to leave their homes under the threat of being tortured to death. That doesn't sound like the Israeli experience to me, but it sounds a hell of a lot like the Palestinian one. And when my Ashkenazi comrades in the Jewish bloc speak, when they march, when they make their signs, when they chant, it is with the voices of their ancestors that they are speaking. It is with the voices of people who suffered pogroms, who were murdered by a vicious fascistic... I can't speak. Sorry, let me put my teeth back in. Who were murdered by a vicious fascistic war machine that they are speaking with. It is with the voices of all of our ancestors who are downtrodden, who are oppressed, who are tortured, who are forced to flee their homes, who are forcibly converted, who are killed, who are victims of genocide that we speak with. And it is with the voice of my ancestors in Bosnia who faced such horrific violence 30 years ago that I speak. And it is for them that I stand on this stage and say that we are not free until we are all free, and that we are not free until Palestine is free. There is no opposition between Jewish safety and Palestinian liberation. There is no opposition between Jewish identity and Palestinian liberation. In fact, it is the reason I speak. It is that tradition of liberation, of justice, of truth, of righteousness that compels me to stand on this stage and to tell you that I have never been so proud to be Jewish and to be marching with you. And I have never in my life been so sure that I will live to see a free Palestine.
next speaker is a Palestinian journalist and writer. He is the co-founder of We Are Not Numbers, which brings the voices of writers from Gaza to the world. He has lost dozens of members of his family in the current genocide. So I want you all to give a very warm welcome to Ahmed Al-Naouk.
Thank you, London. Thank you very much. My colleague, the amazing Emily, just spoke about her ancestors. Very, very powerful speech. So allow me to speak about my ancestors. In the first Nakba in 1948, while my grandmother was giving birth to my father, on the same day, Israel dropped a bomb on a market in Deir el-Balah, where my family is from, and they killed her father and her uncle. On the first months of the Nakba, I lost many of my ancestors. And on the second Nakba, on what they wanted us to believe that it would be the second Nakba, this war, this genocide, I lost my father. I lost my brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. Generations were erased in this ongoing Nakba. The Nakba did not end in 1948, it continued. It's ongoing. And these Israeli leaders, they said it a few months ago, they said they want another Nakba for Palestine. They want another Nakba for Gaza. But they're wrong. The first Nakba did not end. The first Nakba is ongoing. And what they wanted it to be a second Nakba, it's not going to be our Nakba. It's going to be our liberation. It is going to be the beginning of the end to Zionism. It is going to be the beginning of the end to colonization. Not only in Palestine, but everywhere. It's going to be the end of occupation, colonization, theft of land, besiegement, occupation, apartheid. It's going to be the end of apartheid in Palestine. And we are just witnessing the beginning of all of that. You are making history, my friends. You're making history by continuing to protest for 7 months in a row. You're not tired, you're not lazy. You are our brothers and sisters, and make no mistake, you are Palestinians. We are all Palestinians. We are all Palestinians. Those who protest for Palestine from the UK, from the US, and at universities all around the world are all Palestinians. And Israel, they can kill many thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. They can kill 15,000 children in Palestine, but they don't know that with every child that they kill, 1 million other Palestinian is born around the world, not only in Palestine. We are marking the beginning of our journey to end Zionism, to end apartheid and occupation. And in our way, in this journey, let's not forget this. Let's not forget that's not only Israel that's complicit against our people in Gaza. There are many others who are complicit. And those who are complicit are Rishi Sunak and the Conservative Party, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. It is time to quit the Labour and Conservative who are complicit in the war crimes against the people in Gaza. It is Joe Biden and the elite class and politicians. They are all complicit in the war crimes in Gaza. The Western media is complicit. It is the BBC and Sky News who are complicit against the blood of my family. They are all complicit. We will not forgive them. We will not forgive them. We will keep protesting until Palestine is free from the river to the sea, Thank you.
Once again, give it up for Ahmed. I have some great news. The march has still not reached Piccadilly Circus, and we estimate there are 250,000 people out in the streets of London today. In our thousands, in our millions. 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 Our next speaker is here representing Friends of Al-Aqsa, one of the co-organizers of today's protest. So please give a very warm welcome to Dr. Ismail Patel.
Assalamu alaikum. Every day of the past 76 years for the Palestinians has been a Nakba day. The authors of the Nakba are not only Zionism, but includes Lord Balfour and the British government. In that sense, the Nakba started well before 1948 and then gave birth to the colonialist apartheid state of Israel. In imposing the state of Israel, hundreds of massacres were carried out, including at Tantura, Ramla, and Deir Yassin. Let there be no ambiguity. Israel was established over the burning homes, stolen land, and corpses of Palestinians. The Nakba is also an ongoing process. As a result of the Nakba, there are over 7 million Palestinians made homeless. The ongoing Nakba is about displacement, ethnic cleansing, denial of the right of movement, imprisonment without trial, denial of the right of children to education, abuse of children, home demolition, the right to self-definition, and in particularly the killing of Palestinians. But above all, the Nakba is the dehumanizing of the Palestinians so that violence upon them is justified. The Nakba has continued not because we can't end the Nakba, but because there's no way of satisfying the Israeli lust for more land and absolute supremacy. Some of the Western leaders are coming round to understand the lawless Israeli project and greed. More than that, most of the world is rising up and demanding an end to the Nakba. Your efforts of lobbying, protesting, boycotting, student encampment, direct action is bringing about a major change. The number of countries stopping arms sales to Israel is growing. Countries breaking economic and diplomatic ties are increasing. Universities divesting are swelling. Share prices in companies complicit with Israel are plummeting. I am confident your continued efforts will bring an end to the Nakba. Let us together pledge, my friends, that on this day and every day, we stand in solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people for justice and self-determination, and say, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. Thank you very much.
From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Our next speaker is here today representing the Muslim Association of Britain, one of the co-organizers of today's march. Please give a warm welcome to Ragad Al-Takriti.
Brothers, sisters, friends, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. Today, as we gather to commemorate the 76th anniversary of the Nakba, the catastrophe, we must remember that the Nakba is not merely a historic event. It is a continuing and persistent brutal reality that continues to shape the lives of millions of Palestinians today. It is an ongoing, relentless process of ethnic cleansing and occupation. For 76 years, Palestinians have been systematically denied their basic human rights, subjected to constant violence and dehumanization. They are treated as threats rather than as human beings deserving of dignity and justice. The Nakba is lived every day by those denied the right to return to their lands. It is lived by the people of Gaza, who are facing an ongoing genocide by Israel as we speak. It is lived by families in the West Bank who watch as their homes are destroyed and replaced with settlements. It is lived by Palestinians everywhere who face discrimination, violence, and marginalization. Yet, despite 76 years of brutal oppression, the Palestinian spirit remains unbroken. We gather not only to remember the Nakba, but to reaffirm our commitment to the struggle for justice, freedom, and the right to return. We stand here today to declare that the Nakba will not be forgotten. We will not be silenced by those who attempt to erase Palestinian history. We stand here 76 years on as a testament to the enduring spirit of the Palestinian people and their relentless pursuit of justice and freedom. Despite attempts to tarnish our movement, certainly we are on the right side of history. We are against oppression and war crimes, standing against supporters of an occupation and a genocide who will soon be held accountable. Let us remember the Nakba, not only as a tragedy, but as a call to action. Let us learn from the past to understand the present and work tirelessly to change the future. Let us stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people and demand an immediate end to the ongoing genocide in Gaza, the occupation, the apartheid, and the entire settler colonial system. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions. Thank you so much.
Free, 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 from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. Our next speaker is someone who needs no introduction. He is a man who fights apartheid and injustice wherever he finds it. He is the People's Prime Minister. Please give a very warm welcome to Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. Thank you for making the effort, making the sacrifice, and showing our undying solidarity with the people of Palestine on Nakba Day. And thank all the organizations that have put this together. Obviously, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Stop the War Coalition, CND, Palestine Forum, and so many more that have brought us all together in this great sense of unity on Nakba Day. 1948, 700,000 people were driven out of their homes on Nakba Day and the days that followed. Many died. Many went to live in refugee camps in Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and as a diaspora around the world. And many went to Gaza, where they've lived ever since. 700,000 in 1948. And in the last 6 months alone, 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza have now been driven from their homes. And as the Israeli Defense Force threatens to drive them all out of Gaza into the Sinai to set up a new Gaza Strip there. This has been denounced by the International Court of Justice, by the UN Security Council, by the General Assembly, by the Geneva Convention. Every international legal body has found against Israel in its behavior, in its bombardment, and in its occupation. So our message on Nakba Day 2024 is cease fire now, an end to the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, and justice for the Palestinians in refugee camps all over the region, and indeed the diaspora all over the world. This is a very difficult day for all Palestinian people. They all have relatives, friends, and loved ones who suffered in 1948 and have suffered ever since then. It is our message to them of solidarity today. And I want to say particular thank you to those all around the world, those students all around the world who've occupied their universities, demanded an end to the occupation, demanded an end to the investments and the arms trade. I also want to say thank you to those artists at the Great Escape Festival in Brighton who have refused to perform because it's sponsored by Barclays. So don't give up on those artists. Support them as they're supporting us. And the last thing I want to say is this. I had a very long conversation yesterday with a good friend, Dr. Ofer Kasif, who is a member of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. He's been threatened with removal from the parliament. He's been threatened with all kinds of things because he went on a Nakba Day march in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And he asked me to give this message and says this: millions in Israel, Palestine, and Jews alike oppose Netanyahu's government and those crimes. Do not give up on us. Well, look around you today. We're a movement of people. We're a movement of people of all faiths, of quite a wide variety of political views. But we will not give up on the demand for justice for the Palestinian people. We'll not give up demanding the British government stop supplying arms. And that political movement will not go away either. We're a global movement for peace, for justice, for a sustainable world where we don't waste the world's resources on arms. We instead invest the world's resources on people and our environment. Stand together, solidarity. Thank you.
Free, free! Free, free! In our thousands, in our millions! In our thousands, in our millions! And from the river to the sea! Now, our next speaker is a Palestinian photojournalist. His pictures have brought the reality of the ongoing genocide in Gaza to the world. He once spoke about how he did not intend to become a war journalist and wished that people knew me for my art because he wanted to capture the beauty of his people. As he speaks, we will show images that he has taken over the last 7 months and images of the beauty of Gaza and its people that were shot before October. It is the greatest privilege to have this person with us here today. So please give him your warmest welcome. Motaz Aziza!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You made me feel that there is hope. And the days I would believe that no one could do anything. I didn't believe in anyone. But after more than 226 days today, The moment I saw you, I literally felt there is hope. The hope is in the people, not in the governments. I never prepared a speech. You all know me since the beginning of the genocide. I used to be a photographer, amateur, just capturing the beauty of Gaza. But for sorry, every time Israeli occupation destroying even the beauty of Gaza, I'm for sorry I had to document it for the world to see. I didn't believe that I will stay alive to stand today here in London in front of the people who saw me there under the bombing. I'm so sorry. You make us, as the people of Gaza, start to feel hope again. Occupation is using all the weapons against us. The bombs, the killing, the starvation, apartheid in the West Bank, and now he's using it in Gaza Strip. He's splitting Gaza from the half. He's killing the people, forcing them to leave their lands, killing the innocent babies, as you saw through my footage, killing everyone who just want to live in his home. Thank you so much. I don't have many words. I did my best to show you, and I believe you will do more. We all together will do more to stop the genocide. And believe me, Gaza now sees you. Everyone in Gaza now sees you, and they are very proud of you. Thank you so much. I'm Free Palestine. Always a Free Palestine.
Once again, give it up for Motors! In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. And in our millions, in our billions. In our millions, in our billions. In our millions, in our billions. Our next speaker is the MP for Hayes and Harlington. So please give a very warm welcome to John McDonnell.
Let me just make an announcement. On Monday, Julian Assange will be in court for the most crucial hearing in his life. If he loses this, he'll be extradited to the US and faces a 175-year sentence. Come and join us on Monday morning at 8:30 at the High Court in the Strand to support Julian Assange for the work that he's done. I don't want to shout at you, I want to make an appeal. You know as well as me that there are thousands of children that have been killed by the Israeli Defense Force. But there are tens of thousands that have been injured and maimed. There are now only, at best, 2 hospitals operating in Gaza. Many of these children require sophisticated, complex surgery and treatment. And for months, we've been campaigning with the Palestinian people to secure a process of evacuation for those children so that they can come here to receive the essential treatment they need. And of course, then be returned to their homeland. So Great Ormond Street Hospital and others. The government minister has said not one single child from Gaza has been allowed to come here for treatment. When the Ukraine war started, a scheme was put in place that evacuated hundreds of children that came here quite rightfully for treatment and secured the treatment they needed. If it was good enough for Ukrainian children, and I supported that, it must be good enough for Palestinian children as well. We are now, as a result of the campaign, we have secured a meeting with the minister of this government responsible. So I'm asking you now, when you go home, contact your local MP and say, we want you as our local MP to be raising the plight of the Gazan children, the Palestinian children, and to allow a scheme to be developed which will enable those children who've suffered so much to be brought to this country, to be treated, to be supported, and then, yes, allowed to return home to a homeland that we want to secure in peace. But let me say this as well. That's an appeal, but let me say this too. Every one of those children that were killed by the ADF was a war crime. I want to live long enough to see Netanyahu and his cabinet in the dock at the War Crimes Court. Solidarity.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Next up, we have a very special guest. He's a British singer-songwriter known for timeless hits like Wild Word, Father and Son, and Peace Train. He has made the call for peace and justice a central part of his musical and philanthropic journey. Please give a very warm welcome to Yusuf Cat Stevens.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. First, it's incredibly beautiful to be here with you. I've been seeing you on television for so many weeks now. It's great to be with the crowd that is with the truth. It's beautiful, beautiful to see all these conscious faces and hearts that have leaned towards the obvious direction of truth and justice, and standing here today facing up to the political obstinacy and blind deafness of the government in not stopping and continuing to support the aggression and the war and the killing and the bombing of innocent children, mothers, families in Palestine. So I'm just here to continue to send a reverberation of the message which we started, kind of like the 60s and 70s, but you're not quite dressed the same, but kind of similar. And it's just great to see that rising up again. I was kind of missing it, and, you know, keeping the voice loud and clear for the issues that bring us together as human beings. Because every human being should have a conscience. And if you bury that conscience, the human being has gone. And therefore, you are the voice of the conscience. Please keep it awake and give your support and continue support. And inshallah, we say, God willing, the peace train will be running down that track one day. Peace, free, free Palestine.
Free, 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 free. Our next speaker is the president of Unison, the union, representing over 1.4 million workers in Britain. So please give a warm welcome to Libby Nolan.
Thank you, and solidarity to every single one of you. Always. Unison has always had a long, proud history of solidarity with the Palestinian people and campaigning for justice and the rights and the end to the occupation. So it's a really great honor to be standing here today to commemorate the devastating effects of the Nakba, the continuation of the Nakba, and the demands for an end to it, to all the atrocities in the last 7 months. We stand together with the international trade union movement in our demand for an immediate and permanent ceasefire now. And we're standing outside Downing Street, so I'll say it again. Ceasefire now! We demand this Tory government finally takes action by suspending the arms trade and the UK-Israel trade and partnership agreement until all human rights are respected. It's almost 4 months since the World Ties Court ordered governments to take immediate and effective measures to prevent genocide. So how come any government continues to stand by as the latest atrocities and war crimes unfold in Rafah? 600,000 people displaced once again, driven from makeshift shelters in search of safety, where we know there is no safe place to be found, denied the right to adequate shelter, food, clean water, medicine and sanitation. We stand in solidarity with all of those who are working to provide critical public services. And in the most devastating of circumstances, at least 493 of my fellow health workers have been murdered in over 70% of Gaza's already limited primary healthcare facilities are no longer functioning. And it's shocking, despite all this Tory government continues to suspend funding to UNRWA. And we say to this government very loud, you cannot continue ignoring international law and successive UN resolutions. We must demand a ceasefire now, an end to the occupation now, fund UNRWA now, and recognize the Palestinians now. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. Free, free Palestine! Free, free!
Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Our next speaker is a British-Egyptian author and founder of PALFest, the Palestine Festival of Literature. She is also a member of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Please give a very warm welcome to Ataf Sahav.
Hello, Masai al-Khair, Salamu alaikum, good evening. Friends and comrades, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. It has been 225 days since the start of the latest of Israel's wars on Gaza. This is the war where they are bent on finishing the job that they started 76 years ago. And so 8 decades of oppression, of murder, dispossession and displacement are folded into this moment that we are living today. We have all seen the videos of old men laughing as they tell of what they did in Tantura, in Deir Yassin, in Kafr Qasim, 76 years ago. And we are now watching videos of soldiers mocking shackled and blindfolded Palestinian men, rifling through the underwear of Palestinian women, and we have seen children, for heaven's sakes, children stomping on aid meant for Palestinian children. Shame. This is what happens when crimes committed across decades are not accounted for. They are committed again and again, and they broaden in scale and deepen in brutality. They also infect the body politic of the world. Gaza has exposed unequivocally how hollow the professed values of the most powerful states in the world are. It has exposed the impotence of the international institutions we are told are there to safeguard international law. It has exposed the venality of the interests that rule in quarters from where we would have expected a value placed on neighborliness and a shared history. In sum, it has exposed the true interests, coalitions, and processes that rule us. But those powers no longer have a monopoly over information or over global coordinated action. A progressive, humane, ethical has been struggling to be born, and it is now being forged in the agony of Gaza. And we here, marching for Palestine, are part of it. Friends, it was 24 years ago that I first went to Palestine. It was 24 years ago that I first went to Palestine and witnessed firsthand the brutality, the cunning, the relentlessness of the occupier. It was 24 years ago that I fell in love with the grace and the dignity with which Palestinians lived, insisting on fully inhabiting their lives under the cruelest circumstances. I have gone back with Palfest year after year, drawing strength and inspiration from Palestine and fellow travelers. Palfest was one drop in the ocean of engagement that Palestine has inspired across the world. And now we are seeing a whole generation emerge onto university campuses, onto the streets. You emerge ready with information, with a critical view, with imagination, and with a passion for justice and for humanity. You understand the system and you work around it or you block it. You are the righteous vanguard out here fighting for a free Palestine. Free Palestine. Friends, my grandchildren are here today, as they are every Saturday. At 6 and 3 years old, they understand protest to mean free Palestine. And they are right. A free Palestine means a world liberated from a system that would, with tall walls, wall us, with strong drugs, dope us, with lies, lure us, with cameras, surveil us, and in bloodbaths, bathe us. This struggle will be won, and it will be won through the resilience of Gaza and the steadfastness of her supporters, through your loyalty and the loyalty and imagination of partisans of Palestine everywhere. And I am proud to be with you. Thank you. Thank you.
From the river to the sea. 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 Our next speaker is here representing the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, one of the co-organizers of today's protest. Please give a warm welcome to Kate Hudson.
Thank you so much. Today, on this anniversary of the Nakba, we stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine in their historic struggle for their land and homes, for their rights and sovereignty. And in this most terrible time, we stand with the people of Gaza against this genocide. Countless millions globally are taking action for Gaza. And amongst the most inspirational are the students across the world. They're standing up, speaking out, building their encampments to support Palestinian freedom. And in the United States, they're putting their safety, their liberty, even their lives on the line, defending their right to oppose a genocide and to stop their universities doing business with Israel. And today, we stand with those students. And here in Britain, the student movement too is expanding, and already there have been victories for divestment. We need, friends, we need to see this work growing, not only amongst the students, but across our society and in the trade union movement too, because we know how powerful an alliance between students and workers can be. And this is what we need to see for Gaza, a powerful alliance that can change the rotten policies of this government. So, friends, we say today that our trade union movement, of which so many of us are part, it must step up and respond urgently to the call of the Palestinian trade union movement to stop the Israeli war machine, to prevent production for the Israeli onslaught, and to prevent the arms shipments to Israel. Friends, we're 7 months into this genocide, and military support is still going from Britain to Israel. It has to stop. We have to meet this appeal from Palestine, this cry from their movement, which was the first appeal that they made in the earliest days of this genocide. Together, friends, united, let us rise to the challenge and let us take action to stop those weapons, that are killing our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Together, friends, together, we must be an unstoppable force to end this genocide. Thank you.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Our next speaker is here today representing the Palestine Forum in Britain, one of the co-organisers of today's rally. Please give a very warm welcome to Abdulrahman Tamimi.
Thank you. Just quickly before we start, let's do a quick warm-up. What do we want? Now let's change it up. Justice. And we're going to start low and go louder and louder. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? On behalf of the PFB, one of the organizers of today's march, I wish to thank you all for joining us today. I wish to salute the noble students who have stood against the corrupt academic institutions all across the world. I wish to salute our Jewish brothers and sisters who are refusing to let Zionism, who are refusing to let Zionists speak in their name. Brothers, sisters, comrades, we are witnessing a new awakening. The colonial entities are panicking. They thought this would be a trend. They thought we would forget our brothers and sisters in Gaza. But what they don't realize is 76 years later, the occupation has dug its grave. 76 years later, we are steadfast. We will not give up. We will not back down. We will resist and we will get justice. Some of you may ask what that justice is. Justice is when we return to our lands. Justice is when I return to my grandfather's land in Hebron. When I return to my grandmother's home in Beersheba. Justice is when we liberate Palestine inch by inch from the river to the sea. In Arabic, the word for we will return is raji'in. Let's show solidarity with all the Palestinians around the world. Repeat after me. Raji'in! 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 I'd like to point out that part of the Freedom Flotilla is actually visiting London in 2 weeks. There is a ship called the Handala and it will stop in several ports. Inshallah, we'll give you some more information. But we should show our solidarity. We should go and we should see. But soon, inshallah, we will be on the ship that returns to a liberated Palestine. We will swim in Akka. We will return to Jaffa and eat from its oranges. We will pick the grapes from Hebron. We will harvest the olives of Arama. And God willing, inshallah, we will pray in Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Palestine. I promise you that one day these walls and fences will go down. The flag of the Zionist colonial entity will go down. And the flag of Palestine will go up. And last but not least, in our thousands, in our millions, in our thousands, in our millions, in our thousands, in our millions. Thank you.
In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. And in our millions, in our billions. In our millions, in our billions. In our millions, in our billions. Who worked with Nelson Mandela, and he is a campaigner against apartheid. He is an activist against the arms trade, and he is now standing as an independent candidate in Holborn and St Pancras against Keir Starmer. So please give a warm welcome to Andrew Feinstein.
Sorry about that. So you can hold it for me. Thank you. Thank you very much all for being here. I stand here today very proudly as a Jew, as a South African, and as a resident of Holborn and St Pancras. I stand here today not only to commemorate 76 years of Nakba, not only to honor the resilience of the Palestinian people, but also to tell you that in South Africa, we experienced a Nakba in 1652, when the first white European settler colonialists arrived on the southern tip of Africa. And just as South Africa freed itself from settler colonialism, from racism, from apartheid, so too will Palestine be free. And what brought about an end to apartheid was tens and millions of people, like we are around the world today, demanding BDS against the racist apartheid state, demanding a ban on all arms sales to the apartheid state, and the millions of students around the world in encampments in support of defeating apartheid in South Africa. And today, we must pay tribute to our students across the United Kingdom, across the world, who are camping for freeing Palestine, who are demanding that their universities divest from the apartheid Israeli state. And let us never forget that Israel was apartheid South Africa's closest ally, providing the apartheid regime with weapons, with military training, and with political support. And that is why it was my country, South Africa, that again returned to the International Court of Justice this past week to say that Israel continues to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. And if the highest court in the world does not find against Israel, then the international rule of law that was created after the horrors of the Holocaust will itself no longer exist. That is what is at stake at the ICJ. David Lammy suggested that my former boss, Nelson Mandela, would not support the actions of our students. Does David Lammy not know that it was Nelson Mandela, as president of the ANC Youth League, who demanded the ANC adopt an armed struggle against apartheid? Does David Lammy not know that Nelson Mandela traveled the world from university to university after he was released to thank the students for their role in bringing about an end to apartheid? As Nelson Mandela's grandson said, David Lammy is besmirching the name of his own grandfather, Nelson Mandela, in defense of genocide, like the entire leadership of the Labour Party. So, let us honor the true legacy of Nelson Mandela. Let us never forget that after 27 years in an apartheid prison, Nelson Mandela walked free to say, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Once again, give it up for Andrew. Our next speaker is the Senior Assistant General Secretary of the RMT, a union that has always stood strong in its solidarity with the Palestinian people. So please give a warm welcome to Eddie Dempsey.
Solidarity to all of you from the 80,000 members of the RMT Union. My General Secretary, Mick Lynch, sends a personal message of solidarity to each and every one of you here today. And I just want to say two things first of all. Firstly, to the students who are occupying the campuses here in London and across the world, you are an inspiration to all of us. You give us hope. We are so proud of you. Solidarity. Secondly, I just wanted to say, on behalf of my family and my wife, Bethany, who, like most of you here, have followed the brave reporting of Motaz right from the beginning. And like so many of you here, I'm sure, have cried some nights fearing for the life of Motaz. I am so pleased to see that he is here. He deserves a hero's welcome from London. This city will always be yours, Motaz. My wife Bethany asked me to say to Motaz, and I hope he can hear this, you are the pride of your people and the pride of the world. Love you. Thank you. Solidarity. In years to come from now, when people look back at these times, they will be amazed at why the politicians the world over turn the other cheek at the bloody slaughter of so many innocents, the children, the mothers, the women. They will remember the names of these politicians with shame and horror. It is a stain they will never wash out. But they will remember you as the pride of humanity for not turning the other cheek, for standing up for justice for the Palestinian people, for standing for the majority of the world who wants to see a free Palestine and an end to the slaughter. So our children, some of whom have marched with us during these times, will not forget these lessons. It was the working class, all of us, trade unionists, black, white, Muslim, Jew, who came together in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And we will not be divided. Despite the best efforts of the politicians to portray you as a hate march, to create a moral panic about Muslims in this country, to try to hype up as if there's some hatred against Jews from those of us who stand in solidarity with Jews, who want to see peace, who want to see a ceasefire and want to see Palestinians free. We are the movement that can bring about change. So remember the inspiration of the students. Remember the inspiration of heroes like Motaz, and keep marching, keep fighting. Demand your trade unions join in, and together we will hold these politicians to account. Solidarity.
Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea! And in our thousands, in our millions! Our final speaker for today's demonstration is the director of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, who are one of the organizers of today's march. Please give a very warm welcome to Ben Jamal!
Thank you. Friends, today we have marched for the 14th time since October to call for an end to the genocide, an end to all UK complicity in that genocide. And once more, we have marched more than 250,000 strong. But friends, today, we have also marched to commemorate the Nakba. Every Palestinian you have heard today, including me, is a child of the Nakba. Every living Palestinian is a survivor of the Nakba. But the Nakba, of course, impacts every Palestinian, not just because of the magnitude of the trauma of 1948, which causes it inevitably to ripple through the generations, but because the catastrophe never ended. We commemorate the Nakba as a 76-year process of colonization, dispossession, occupation, and apartheid. But today, friends, today, even as our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza confront the darkest moment in this ongoing Nakba, today we are also here to celebrate. Today we celebrate and we mark
76 years of the Palestinian people's refusal to succumb. 76 years of ongoing resistance to erasure. Today, as a Palestinian, I remember my family and their Nakba story. My grandparents, Shukri and Nazli Jamal, and all of my family were forced to flee from their homes. Beautiful mansions. They were a wealthy family in Tolbiah, West Jerusalem. Tolbiah is just a few short miles from the village of Deir Yassin, when on April the 9th, 1948, Zionist militias massacred over 100 Palestinians, including women and children. Every single one of my family homes was stolen. One of them, the home of my great uncle, became for a while the headquarters of the Irgun, one of the militias who carried out that massacre at Deir Yassin. I am a British Palestinian. I am the son of a Palestinian father and an English mother. Standing in the crowd with you today are my two daughters. They are in their mid and late 20s. I'm not as young as I look. Like me, they were born, schooled, and grew up in England. Like me, they became solidarity activists here in the UK. They have been solidarity activists since they were able to walk. I have a picture on my wall at home. I looked at it this morning before I came here to be with you. It's a picture of the two of them when they were 10 and 7 years old, standing in Trafalgar Square, holding a placard that read, "Stop starving the Palestinians." As solidarity activists, friends, we know what our task is. What the Palestinian people require of us is unchanging. It is that we end the complicity of our government, our public bodies, our companies and corporations, without whose support Israel could not sustain its system of oppression. Right now, that demand is echoing in towns and cities across the UK, led by PSC branches as they picket banks and arms factories. Right now, that demand is echoing across universities as students set up tents to demand divestment. And today, we collectively have brought that demand once more to the street of our capital as we have marched again 250,000 strong. So today, friends, as a Palestinian, I want to thank you for everything that you do as solidarity activists. But today, I remain inspired by the samud, the endurance and resilience of my fellow Palestinians. They know, we know, that the struggle is long, but that they will prevail. I want you today to remember the words delivered recently by our beautiful brother who could not be with us today, Ghassan Abu Sitta, to students in Glasgow. He said this: "It is your world to fight for. It is your tomorrow to make. We will own tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a Palestinian day." So friends, we need you to keep campaigning with us. Sign the e-actions calling for a ban on arms sales. Join the pickets of complicit companies like Barclays Bank. Take action in the next coming weeks in your towns and cities when we call the next day of action, and be ready to return here again
to London when we call the next national march. We will publish all the details of these actions in the next few days on our social media. Finally, friends, let us today once more commit to work with our brothers and sisters in Palestine to build that new tomorrow, to create that new day, the day on which finally the walls of apartheid are demolished and on which finally the sun will rise over a free Jerusalem, over a free Haifa, and over a free Gaza. And a day on which all of the Palestinian people living in exile will finally be free to return home. In the words of the great Palestinian poet Remi Kenazi, we have not forgotten. We will not forget. Veins like roots of olive trees, we will return. That is not a threat, not a wish, not a hope, nor a dream. It is a promise. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Thank you.
Friends, comrades, thank you for coming out in full force today to show your solidarity. Today we have shown the British government that their sponsorship of Israeli apartheid is not in our name. We have shown the architects of Israeli apartheid that we will always oppose them. And we have shown the people of Palestine that we will always stand with them. So London, please join me one last time. Raise your flags, raise your placards, raise your voices. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions. And from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. We need to keep showing up. We need to keep showing up next Saturday and the one after and the one after. So please join the local days of action over the next couple of weeks and then bring absolutely everyone you know to the next national demonstration. We know that we will never give up. We know that we will never back down. We know that we will never be silent and we will never stop fighting until Palestine is free. So please leave safely. Please donate to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign on your way if you can so that we can keep putting on these demonstrations in a safe way. Please take care of yourselves, take all of your belongings, and we'll see you at the next demonstration. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea!